Story 1. On the night the app erased an entire ride from my history, a man asked me a question I still hear when I'm alone at red lights. You ever wonder how you're going to die? I'd been driving Uber for only 2 months in Riverton, a riverfront city that closes its eyes after 11 p.m. I took the late shifts because the tips were better and the road stayed empty. That Friday, after midnight, my phone pinged. A pickup at Maple Lanes, the bowling alley in a half-dead strip mall with a neon sign, buzzes even when the place is locked. A tall guy stood under a failing lamp, its halo sputtering like a moth's last breath. He wore a gray hoodie, hands in his pockets, head down. "You Ethan?" I asked. He nodded once and slid into the back seat, directly behind me. His voice, when he finally used it, was too calm, the way ice is calm before it breaks. "That address is fine." We drove in silence. I glanced up every minute and met his eyes staring past me. No phone glow, no window gazing, just a fixed attention of someone watching a screen behind your forehead. 10 minutes passed, then 15. The farther out we went, the darker the town became, lawns swelling into fields, houses thinning into shadows. "Pull into that driveway," he said at last. The house on the right looked abandoned, siding sloughed off in strips, porch collapsing inward, yard swallowed by waist-high grass. No lights, no cars. I hesitated, then eased in, nose to the dark porch. "This your place?" I asked. He didn't answer. He just opened the door and moved around the side of the house. 2 minutes felt like 30. My thumb hovered between end trip and call support. I told myself not to be dramatic, that sometimes people stash a spare key around back. I ended the trip anyway, my pulse demanding it, and slipped the car into reverse. He reappeared from the side yard at a fast walk, then a faster one, a face I could read only as excited or angry, maybe both. I unlocked the doors, stupidly, as if courtesy could keep the peace. "Take me to the other place," he said, breath steady, eyes steady. "What other place?" "Just drive. I'll tell you. I can't without an address in the app." A long silence. "Back where you got me?" The drive back to Maple Lanes lasted forever. He pressed the car's air into a smaller and smaller room. I tried to joke it off. "Rough night." "You could say that." "Everything okay?" "Not yet." I parked under the same stuttering lamp. He leaned forward until I could hear the wet click of his swallow. "You ever wonder how you're going to die?" I let out a bad laugh. "Not a hobby of mine." "I think about it all the time," he said, and then half stood in the open door, holding the car and the night on a hinge. "You picked the wrong guy up tonight." He slipped into the dark behind the building. My hand shook on the wheel. When I got home, I opened the app to report the ride. The name Ethan was gone. The ride was gone. No profile photo, no route, no receipt, like my car had driven a ghost to an address that didn't exist. Support wrote back a can line about cancellations, corrupted trip data. These things happen. I stared at the empty trip history until the screen timed out. I told myself it was a glitch. I told myself dozens of rational things. But some nights, waiting at a curb under a half-lit street lamp, I feel that seat behind me filled with pressure again, like a choice in the world rerouted around me. He didn't say that I would die. He said I picked the wrong guy. And maybe he was right. Maybe the right driver did show up for him eventually. Story 2. I locked my doors when I went into the gas station. When I came out 4 minutes later, the man I just dropped off was already sitting in my back seat. I'd chosen nights in Harbor Oaks because drunks tip and highways stay honest. That Saturday, around 1:30 a.m., I accepted a request from a pin behind an old furniture store, the kind of backlot that bakes during the day and feels hollow at night. Name on the screen, Luca. He looked ordinary. Hoodie jeans, posture that apologized for existing. No slur, no smell, just that flattening quiet like someone running a bad loop in his head. The destination was a cul-de-sac on the edge of Pine Hollow, 25 minutes straight into fewer and fewer streetlights. 5 minutes in, I noticed a beam. He had his phone face up on his lap, the flashlight on, aimed toward the seatback. Not bright enough to be useful, not dim enough to ignore. "You get back there?" I asked, a mumble. The light clicked off. The car tried to become normal again. We reached the address, a dark house with darker windows. Even the porch bulb was dead, like someone had removed it and left the socket's mouth open. This the place? I asked. He stared out through me. Hey, this it? A nod, slow and distant, as if the decision had been made by someone else. He got out, left the door open, and faced the house like a magnet held him there. I waited with the engine running. A minute can grow teeth if you let it. I need to go back, he said suddenly, voice flat. Back where? Where you picked me up. You'll have to request a new. I can't, he said, and then softer. They're not gone yet. Who? He didn't answer. He shut the door and walked up the dark steps. I eased away, turned the corner, and ended the trip. I parked at a 24-hour gas station to breathe and a tech support a welfare check that I deleted before sending, because what would I even write? Man is weird at a house that might be his? I locked my doors and went inside. The fluorescent light burned the night off me. I bought water I didn't want and a candy bar I wouldn't eat. I came back out in under 4 minutes. He was in my back seat, hands folded, eyes forward. Cold crept into my neck. I tried to make sense of the lock. Maybe I hit the wrong button. Maybe he'd never left the neighborhood. Maybe... How did you... I started, and my voice lost its traction. Take me back, he said. I'm calling the police. He leaned forward. His breath was fast, but there was no heat in it. They're still in the house. I don't know why those words broke something open in me. Maybe I recognized the way he said they, like a plural that meant more than people. Whose house? My parents, he said. You live there? Not anymore. We drove back, my body arguing with my hands. He rocked in small, contained movements, almost imperceptible unless you watched the edge of his hoodie against the glass. They won't leave, he whispered. No matter what I do. The house stood quiet, a mouth without sound. He got out, walked to the door, and went still. He didn't knock. He didn't try the handle. He didn't even look back. He just became part of the house's dark. I left him there. I drove 3 blocks and parked under a streetlight until the bulb hummed in my bones. 10 minutes. 15. I thought about calling the cops, about explaining a situation with no crime in it. I went home instead and didn't sleep. In the morning, I filed a report with Uber, then sat at my kitchen table, coffee going cold. Tried to understand what was I been close to. Later, curiosity or guilt made me look up the address. A foreclosure notice from last year, unpaid taxes, a small obituary for a woman with Luca's last name, a line about survived by her son. I just don't know if they meant were memories or voices, or people that used to live there and wouldn't stop. The edges change, the center doesn't. We never heard back about our report. Maybe the plate didn't exist. Maybe it belonged to someone who did. I keep thinking about the driver's first nod, how little you need to impersonate trust. A car's shape, a pause at the curb, a glance that says, I could be the one you're waiting for. That's all a hook is. It doesn't have to catch everyone. Just enough. Sometimes, standing outside a restaurant now, I watch cars idle and count the number of passengers who check plates before getting in. It's never as many as you want it to be. The city hums. The river slides by. The minivan might be somewhere in the flow, patient and gray, the color of things that hide in plain sight. I only know that when he said they aren't gone yet, he spoke like someone admitting a storm has set up house and refuses to move on. Sometimes I picture him on that porch, waiting for noise that won't happen. Sometimes I picture the door opening from the inside. Story 3. My neighbor handed me my dinner with one hand and a warning with the other. Your driver was peeking through your windows. I live 8 miles outside Coldwater, the last split of apartments before farmland begins. Friday evening, I was cleaning for my boyfriend's weekend visit. Vacuum line still stitched into the carpet, when hunger convinced me to order. The app said my Uber Eats driver was in a white Honda Fit Sport. I set delivery instructions to leave at door, because being 21 and living alone means you learn the math of safety quickly. A ding, order delivered. I opened my door to nothing. My hallway showed a row of identical doors, all bare at the threshold. I was about to message the driver, when my next-door neighbor, Mrs. Delaney, knocked. She's 50-something, sharp-eyed, the kind who notices when a light bulb forgets itself. She held my bag of takeout. "Sorry," she said. "He looked through your windows, sweetheart. Felt wrong. The food was warm. My spine wasn't." I thanked her, locked the door, triple-checked the back slider out of habit, and turned on a movie to rinse the thought away. Shower, dishes stacked to dry like quiet sails, curtains drawn. My dog, 5 pounds of heroic Morkie named Rook, settled on my feet. Twice that night, Rook growled low at the bedroom window. He's dramatic over moths, but this wasn't for show. The third time, his whole body went rigid. Then came the banging, flat palms on glass, impatient, as if the window had made a mistake by being in the way. I froze, then slid my phone under the blanket to dial. I whispered to 911 that the window latch is old, that sliding glass doesn't ask permission. The operator told me to move to a safer room and wait. I grabbed a kitchen knife because television has taught us to arm our fear. I peeked through a gap in the kitchen curtain and saw a white Honda Fit idling across the street by the field where kids walk dogs and men store trailers. Empty driver's seat. The car a hell breath. When the police arrived, blue and red stitched a temporary border around my building. One officer checked the backyard. Mud revealed prints. Big ones, too recent to feel like the past. Another went to the car. Empty. My neighbor came out, robe tied like armor, and told them about the window peeking. One officer asked me if I wanted to stay elsewhere that night. I said I'd be okay. I was not okay. The officers left a cruiser parked half a block away. I tried to sleep. At 2:03 a.m., the door pounded again. I thought I'd imagined the earlier knocks, a nervous system lying to itself. But the voice on the other side said, "Police?" And when I checked the peephole, it was the same woman officer from before. "We waited," she said, almost apologetic. He came back. They found him crossing the field toward my apartment, as if the distance were a chore he'd agreed to finish. He wore black gloves, and in his pocket, they found a folded delivery receipt with my apartment number circled twice. He told them I hadn't tipped yet. He told them a string of things that might have been lies, or might have been worse than lies, reasons. They arrested him. I stood in the doorway and shook until Rook licked my hand like people do after storms. Small gestures, steadying ones. I sat on the floor after they left. Back to the door, knife on the mat, watching the seam of light under the door like it could grow shape. I don't use Uber Eats when I'm alone anymore. My boyfriend laughed at first, said I was overreacting, then stopped laughing when he held the printout of the arrest report, when he saw the receipt with the circle mark, when he learned the mud by the window was the same pattern of shoe he wears to the gym. Safety is a math problem until one variable looks like you. Sometimes, leaving for work in the morning, I look across the street to the field and imagine the car there again, empty and patient. I wonder how long he'd been out there the first time before Mrs. Delaney intercepted the bag. I wonder what he thought he'd find once he got the window up. And sometimes I catch myself wanting to thank the officer who waited in the dark to catch him. Someone who understood that you can't patrol fear, but you can stand where it plans to walk. Story 4. The real Uber message that he'd arrived just as a gray minivan. We're already and sailed past the hotel that should have been on our right. I flew to Boston to meet my fiancée, Ava, a week before her family arrived for her commissioning ceremony. We walked ourselves stupid through history. The Freedom Trail, the obelisk stab in the sky, the bronze men who tell you to remember. By late afternoon, our feet were blistered and our phones were dying. Ava ordered a car, and we waited where the app told us to wait. A gray minivan eased a curb. The driver half-turned, gave a nod at Ava's Uber for Ava, and we climbed in. I registered every mistake at once only in hindsight. Not checking the plate, not asking the driver's name, letting fatigue count as trust. He drove in silence. Not the quiet professional, but the refusal of a locked door. Ava nudged me. Her screen showed our driver on the map approaching the pickup point. A white sedan, not a minivan. A ping. I'm here. Where are you? The road we were on began to run parallel to the river, and the hotel district reeled backward in the rear view. I tried polite first. We changed our minds. Can you let us out here? The man met my eyes in the mirror. No answer. He kept driving, not fast, but with purpose, like a plan that didn't need speed to work. I have a pocket knife for dumb reasons, packages, loose threads. I flipped it open because fear can make a tool out of anything. You're not our Uber, I said, trying to keep my voice from spilling. Pull over. Now. He saw the steel. His gaze flicked to the shoulder. He braked hard enough to jolt us. The doors unlocked. We climbed out without slamming anything, because animals don't slam when they're escaping. The van rolled forward, then accelerated, then cut left across 2 lanes like it belonged to no one. Our actual driver, Miguel, pulled up a minute later, apology in his face without a thing to be sorry for. We told him. He shook his head the way you do for bad weather. Couple of disappearances this summer, he said quietly. People posing as rideshares near tourist spots. Cops tell us to warn folks. Not everyone listens. At the hotel, we called the police, gave a description that felt like trying to sketch a shadow. The officer on the phone told us to file an online report and to be careful, advice that arrives late and leaves early. I tried to sleep and failed. Around 2 a.m., I opened my laptop and searched through neighborhood posts and local warnings. A thread from last month described a gray minivan hovering near the same pickup point, a driver nodding at 3 different names in a row. Another post guessed the last 2 digits of a plate. The city makes echoes of danger if you listen. 2 days later, Ava's aunt asked why we seemed quieter than expected. We told the story and watched heads tilt in sympathy. Everyone has a ghost version of this tale. A wrong cab at an airport in a country that doesn't speak your language, a night bus with a driver who refuses to stop where you asked, a stranger who floats too close to your doorbell camera. The edges change, the center doesn't. We never heard back about our report. Maybe the plate didn't exist. Maybe it belonged to someone who did. I keep thinking about the driver's first nod, how little you need to impersonate trust. A car shape, a pause at the curb, a glance that says, I could be the one you're waiting for. That's all a hook is. It doesn't have to catch everyone. Just enough. Sometimes, standing outside a restaurant now, I watch cars idle and count the number of passengers who check plates before getting in. It's never as many as you want it to be. The city hums. The river slides by. The minivan might be somewhere in the flow, patient and gray, the color of things that hide in plain sight.